So this game Fortnite it's a game that's kind of taken over right now. This past month, it's a free game on Xbox and PlayStation and compute and PC, and it's everywhere, right? Every big Instagram page has kind of touched on it, but even on without it, it's probably the biggest game on Twitch and on YouTube gaming. So I said I'm gonna shoot my shot, and on Tuesday or Wednesday I posted this like funny Fortnite clip, and I didn't really know what was going on, but I just felt like it was funny and it was a good interaction between friends, and that video got almost 2.5 million video views.
Kind of like I think people like my because I'm kind of a unique kind of character.
And I love to like
you just see how games are possessed how they mean more. I think the U.S. is going to obviously win.
Hello and welcome to a very special episode of Nothing But Respect. My name is Harry Krinsky. I am that feeling you get when your crush finally texts you back. I'm joined by Patrick Redford. He is in a giant cardboard box waiting to surprise his family, for whom he has not seen in 7 years because he has been on deployment with the Merchant Marines. And we are joined by Samir Kalaf, editor at Defector. He was just gifted a pair of Jordan 11s by his class because he was walking around in some dusty cooked Jordans, and he is so excited to see his Jordans because he's a teacher that just totally understands basketball. How are you guys doing, Patrick and Samir?
Bro caught a body. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah.
I'm feeling very inspired, very motivated.
Me too. And I bring all of this up because today we are talking about the story, the epic story of House of Highlights and Omar Raja and Bleacher Report and all of this. It's a story that was on the brainstorming whiteboard when we did came up with this podcast. We were like, maybe we should do an episode of this, and kind of other stuff happened, but we are now here. It is also the namesake of this podcast, Nothing But Respect, is an homage to a repetitive House of Highlights caption tick, where anytime any two players who had ever beefed in a series, there would be an inevitable post that said "Nothing but respect between Luca and Spida" or some shit like that. So,
the initial name of this podcast was "Nothing But Respect." The hands raised emoji.
Exactly. Yeah.
For Unicode coherency reasons, we had to cut that.
But before we really dive into this, let's hit a little bit of the kind of big sports/politics headline of the week, which was following the horrible video of Alex Peretti, who was murdered by ICE, and all the protests surrounding that in Minnesota. The NBA is sort of tangentially involved, A, because a few games were postponed, and B, because some NBA players are as is a history of in the NBA, showing various levels of support. We were just talking before about the players union support versus individual players. I don't know. What do you guys have any kind of thoughts about this? We're not going to go too deep into it, but just as it's emerging.
Yeah, it's interesting that this is like the first thing that's gotten a lot of athletes to really like make statements, probably since Floyd. Would you say, Samir?
Yeah, it feels like since Floyd. I don't know. I mean, it didn't even feel like during the 2024 election there was that much like coverage or statement. It felt like kind of people were just like moving on. I guess that was right before the season started, right? Or like early in the season.
Yeah. And that was also like sort of in an era of, I would say when like the right wing sort of cultural backlash against anything that happened in 2020 was like maybe towards its peak. Whereas like now, I don't know, like conditions are so bad that like you just get something like, Tyrese Halliburton saying Alex Peretti was murdered, or the Breonna Stewart abolish ICE thing. And it's just like the demand is so clear. And it's also like, I think most normal people in the US are like feeling the way they are. Like it's like they're expressing this sentiment that's I think fairly widespread in a way that like, you know, maybe the like nebulous anti-Trump stuff kind of wasn't before.
Yeah, I mean, for months I had been trying to just get somebody, like some athlete, either active or like recently retired, on the record to just like talk a little bit about why there was just like such a chilling effect with this kind of stuff. Because like even athletes like who do talk about it, they kind of, you see them kind of stick to like their own, for lack of a better word, like platforms. And like when Natasha Cloud is talking about Gaza or Trump or like American politics, she's kind of just like relegating it to her own Instagram. I don't know if that's just because like they want to control what they're saying and not have it out of context, but it's even like tough to get like them to talk about it at length in an interview.
Yeah, is Cloud the most prominent athlete who talked about Gaza, like in a direct way? Because I know like the Texans guy had the Stop the Genocide thing. Zach LaVine wrote "Free Palestine" on a pair of shoes that he gave to his barber when he was traded from Chicago.
I still follow
which
that
is only
barber.
revealed in really,
because he's still like posting on Instagram. And I was just kind of curious the trajectory of where he would go after that. But yeah, I feel like Kyrie and Jaylen Brown would do like oblique tweets about it, or just like wear a certain kind, like a T-shirt that has like a watermelon or something like that. But I felt like Natasha and Aziz El-Shaair were the like most prominent ones I can remember.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think we'll see where this goes. We could do multiple episodes on the kind of textured relationship between athletes and speaking up, or I should say the NBA, and speaking up for various social justice issues, and the way the leagues do and don't support that. It is something we will likely, continue to talk about.
Yeah, Woj posting something about fascism on Instagram Threads is very much in the wheelhouse of this podcast.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, we'll keep an eye on this one.
Yes. And we are now going to change topics, but there is a connection a little bit to, the changing. The story of House of Highlights is a story of player empowerment, player media explosion, players as individual brands, etc. So all of this is sort of wrapped up into all of that. But let's back up. House of Highlights is an Instagram feed that has ruined my life. I hate it. I used to love it when I remember I was in 2013. I was in 8th or 9th grade looking at House of Highlights. I thought it was amazing. I thought it was so cool that you could watch a highlight on your phone. It is now. I know it's just because it's the world I live in, but it's like it's what I associate with the end of consensus reality as I understand it. Like no other power has made me feel less grounded to the world than House of Highlights. So that's where I'm coming from. Where what about you guys?
You're a NIMBY for House of Highlights.
I am.
You need to be building fewer houses of highlights.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
You're a degross
not
guy.
in my algorithm.
Seriously.
I think I broadly agree with your state of psychosis here. Like I think I don't have the specific relationship with House of Highlights that you do, but like, as we've been preparing for and researching this episode, like I'm realizing that like they are the most sort of coherent expression of all of the bad stuff that has happened within like sports media over the last like 13 years or so. Like the story of House of Highlights is like broadly the story of things getting worse. And like the more successful they have gotten is like a direct reflection of like the sort of degradation of the media atmosphere. But it's like not such a direct story. It's like more coincidental than anything. And actually like the specific breaks of the story with like Raja and House of Highlights and ESPN and Bleacher Report and Instagram and TikTok are all like much more interesting and particular than I did remember.
Yeah, I was going to say it's also degradation, not just of the media landscape, but of like expectations of your audience, basically. Like,
yeah,
I was kind of I was more obsessed with it in like 2019, 2020, in between jobs, and that's when I like wrote the thing about House of Highlights for Popular. But it was just like it felt so disorienting to like think that a sizable number of the population consume sports highlights in this way. Like there'd be like that oversized baby jumping on its parent, and then like a video of like Devin Booker going off for like 40 points, and then like the dog freaking out when its military owner comes home. Like that just like I don't know, I wouldn't call it uncanny. It was just very disorienting, and just like I couldn't fathom that people consumed media in this way.
Yeah, and like to Harry's point about consensus reality fraying at the edges, like the thing you're describing there, Sammer, is like context collapse, where it's like all of this stuff is just, you know, sludgified into content and sort of takes the same form and then like has the same valence when you come across it, which I think sort of gets to this uncanny feeling, kind of like what we were talking about at the very top of the show, where like you'll log on to social media and it's like a video of a guy getting shot in the chest 5 times. And then it's like, I can't believe what Wemby just did. He's an alien. And they're like, you know, afforded the same weight. And like, that would make, you know, anyone feel crazy.
Yeah. And it's funny, independently, I came up with the phrase sports for babies, and then read your piece, and your piece is called Highlights for Children. Yeah. And so clearly there is like an infantilization element into all of this. Like there's this bizarre feeling that the target audience is a baby, even though the target audience isn't a baby. Like we are ostensibly the targeted audience, right? We're like young people consuming sports.
We have a group chat,
right? Yeah. We got a group chat. We're somewhere between Neff and Unk, but but you do have this feeling that like I am consuming this, but it's for an 11-year-old or something.
I want to shout out Maria Bustillos, my editor for that popular piece. She was the one who came up with Highlights for Children, which was a really funny headline. But also, yeah, it is like the thing where it is like you go through the comments on any post and you just see like the kind of stuff that you would expect like middle schoolers to, like you'll see like pause, you'll see like that kind of shit where they're just like calling people like that kind of stuff. And then you're like, you have to remember, oh yeah, the people watching this in these comments are like 14 to 16 years old. But also at the same time, like you said, this platform is being sold to like serious media CEOs. It's like, this is like, you got to get in on this. If you're not getting in on this, you're not going to grow your audience.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, that's the story of so much of like media business over the last decade or so, is people being like, we need to reach younger and younger consumers, which basically means once you, as Harry said, get into the sort of Unk Neff zone, where the Unk Neff zone of uncertainty, rather, then it's like you're just cast aside. And if every, you know, company is making decisions like that, essentially what you have is the accelerating heat death of American literacy. And, you know, people like us who are, you know, we're young, we kind of know what's going on, just feeling totally adrift in the modern sports media landscape.
It's true, yeah. The uncanny valley of sports consumption. The only other thing at the top I would say is like there's a idea, a kind of I guess a philosophical reading of modern life as meta modern, which is sort of this idea of like rapidly flipping between modernity and post-modernity, and this sort of like we exist in the rapid switch, and things are like ironic and then they're unironic and then they're ironic or whatever. Something that is uncanny about House of Highlights is that it exclusively operates on level 1 irony. It is like there is no subtext beyond the kind of, this is a video of Dwayne Wade, but I'm actually making a joke about my crush. There's like there's no anything else. There's not a second. There's not like any sort of other kind of vehicle or outside idea or whatever. It like purely exists on this one note of joke that's like, it's kind of like this, but it's actually like this.
Yeah. What's kind of
It's crazy making.
is that I feel like I would pay up to $15 at Union Hall to watch a comedian make these jokes, ironically, and instead I could just go to House of Highlights and get it for free. Like that feeling when teacher gives you a pop quiz over like Giannis looking mad.
Right, and we're bringing all this like again, these sort of like incoherent levels of irony and detachment and sincerity to it, but like it appears to be operating on like just this other strange level.
Yeah, it's you can just sort of sense this, like, that maybe they have won the race to the bottom, that like they have found the most sort of like brutal effective possible way to deploy language. It's like they have boiled it down to its hardcore at the bottom, where like there's no further way to degrade it without like actually, decaying what meaning it is conveying. Like it's like it's brute simplicity, I find offensive.
And the mastermind behind this, though, it's interesting. I'm curious where we will all fall at the end. But the mastermind, at least at the beginning of the House of Highlights death ship, was a man named a boy named Omar Raja. And I'm gonna how this episode's kind of gonna work is like there's we've created these like 4 eras of House of Highlights, and we're gonna walk through the kind of like various eras. So this first era is 2013 to 2016. This is the early days of House of Highlights. Omar Raja, actually, so it really starts, well, depending on who you ask, but let's say one way this story starts is July 11th, 2014. LeBron James announces he is leaving the Miami Heat to return to Cleveland for the second time via a Sports Illustrated piece titled "I'm Coming Home," in a very bizarre and I would say never before seen again, as told by Lee Jenkins. So we're just doing articles that are as told by other people now. Lee Jenkins would then go on, of course, to have the very real job of Los Angeles Clippers Executive Director of Research and Identity, and SportsCenter. And Sports Illustrated would become a venture capital clearinghouse. So many things happen around there. But the other one that happened is Omar Raja, a 20 or 21-year-old University of Central Florida student, is so distraught by LeBron James returning to Cleveland, and as he tells it, he is looking for a way to commemorate LeBron James leaving, and starts to, texting his friends and reliving old memories, and realizes, you know what, there's not a place where I can publicly share these highlights of LeBron James's tenure in Miami, but not the highlights like him dunking, because you can find those on YouTube, but you can't find the little stuff. You can't find Mike Miller celebrating, or you can't find their Vine compilations, or you can't find them on the bus totally just vibing out. And so Omar Raja, am going to build start posting these highlights, these little things of the Miami Heat and of all these other exciting places, and see what happens. And lo and behold, the Instagram grows very quickly. It grows in about 9 months. It grows to 500,000 followers, which is a lot at the time. And thus House of Highlights was born. One other kind of important little thing before I'll let you guys talk is it was originally called the Highlight Factory before Raja decided that House of Highlights was a more apt name. So what's your guys' thoughts on this early phase?
This era of Instagram, I remember, was maybe when people kind of stopped posting like heavily filtered photos of like their lunch.
Yep.
With like the hashtag lunch under it.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like I was mostly getting my highlights through like basically like Twitter aggregation play, like CJ Fogler, and like Tim Burke, former Deadspin
Jose
person.
3030. was a big one for
Oh
me.
yeah, I forgot about Jose 3030. Yeah, Samer, what do you remember?
I mean, I was the same thing as you. It was like this was a time where it was actually slightly difficult to find video of like gameplay online on your phone, and so like these kinds of accounts like served a real purpose, and it was just like genuinely done by like some people who had like capture cards and like the technology to put it up there, but it was really like on the basis of like when it was big enough. You weren't getting like literally every meaningful play and the stuff. You were just kind of happy if you saw like I don't know, like a big Blake Griffin dunk or something like that.
Yeah, I Blake Griffin is actually, he's like one of the most interesting sort of like highlight protagonists of this era. Like I remember in like the sort of early Lob City era, like 2012, 2013 and stuff, when like a Griffin dunk felt like a moment. And I remember being on like basketball Twitter at the time and like seeing Griffin dunk on TV and just being like, I have to pull up my phone to like see what people are saying about this. Which feels quaint in several ways now.
I was like night blogging for Deadspin, and at that time it was like the bar. I mean, it was kind of just like during nights, like that's when a lot of the games were. So a lot of those blogs would just be really short highlight blogs that we would have available because of like Tim Burke or video capability. So there was a service there where it's like, oh yeah, I can just go to Deadspin and watch all of these highlights in one place.
That's an interesting point. It's like, and Harry, you sort of said this, like the idea that capturing video and then like distributing it was like a skill or like in any way novel or not something that like literally every person with an internet connection can do now within like 2 seconds. Like that really was like a service back then. Like I started blogging at Deadspin about a year later, and I remember like, you know, when there was a video, you would have the word video in all caps at like the top of the headline to let people know like, here's a video for you. And like now the idea of having a exclusive video on a website that you have to navigate to that is then prompted to you that it's a video to distinguish it from, you know, the regular news, which makes up so much more, is like, again, extremely quaint.
Totally. And I've joked before that like YouTube to mp4.com is the most important website in this media universe, because it's like it was a little bit harder. It's hard to kind of remember this because so much of video sharing and like easily transferable, like, you know, so much has been engineered towards virality and towards like smoothing the bearings of virality these days, that it's hard to remember that like you actually kind of had to be computer savvy to do stuff like this. You didn't need to be a genius, but like you needed to understand that you could download a video from YouTube, or like you could download, like take a video of your screen in the right angle and then like post that to Twitter and share that very easily. Like these were things that a lot of it skewed more toward young, more toward tech savvy people. And another thing, it's funny, Deadspin is a funny moment here because one of the, like, I associate, I'm curious, where Deadspin with like one of the early, you know, mainstream users of hat tip, the sort of idea of like, hey, this user sent me this thing, etc. Because what we begin to see here is the like complete erosion of intellectual property, like that has turned into, it's funny, we talk about AI now as this like master of intellectual property stealing, which it is, but it is, I really do see it as like the acceleration of the internet's sort of like natural destructive power of intellectual property, or like the failure for IP to kind of like work in the digital age, etc. Because, you know, there's everything from like stealing memes to just like literally stealing NBA content to stealing ideas. Like this is all beginning here.
It's funny you mentioned that because I listened to a podcast appearance, a Raja podcast appearance, where he was asked like what was like the breakout moment for the account, and it was like he reposted like a Vine from Kyrie Irving's account. And like, he talks about it as like, this was when I knew that we were really onto something. And it's like, you just shared a video. Like there's nothing original there.
Well, that was there's another thing too, because when you're talking about stealing, like memes, stealing that kind of property, I think another element of that era was one, gifts were really big at the time. Like it was kind of like going from like the advancement in technology and like automobiles, where we were like at the Model T of like consuming this kind of stuff, and then all of a sudden now we're at a Corvette. But also, I feel like there were major controversies, or maybe I don't know if I'd call it major. There were controversies where like people would be accused of stealing tweets, quote unquote. Or there was that guy Josh Ostrovsky, who they would just like compile all the memes in one place, kind of, and just like send it out. And he was like one of the few people I feel like who actually suffered some consequences for it. And I feel like
is that the fat Jewish?
Yeah, that's the fat Jewish.
Is that who I'm thinking
yeah.
of?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then because I feel like other people would do that practice later on. I don't want to get ahead of myself, obviously, but other people would do that practice later on in the decade and ultimately like be rewarded for it.
No, it's true. And I mean, this continues to be like, I don't know what the answer is, right? Like this continues to be a weird thing where like the line between curating content and stealing it is like gets blurrier and blurrier. The next thing I want to, let's talk about Omar specifically, because there's a lot of media conversation around Omar, a lot of articles about Omar and about his like unique style at this time. And there's a funny thing that I caught in all of this. I told this story about Omar, this whole little story about LeBron James. Over the years, about like LeBron James left and I wanted to find out. Over the years, Omar started to change his story in these little ways and kind of like give the game away. In a 2021 interview he did with Rich Klein, which I actually have to say is the best Omar interview. It's kind of, they get in it pretty in depth. But Omar reveals that he's like, well, I actually had run these other two Instagram accounts before. I had run one called Sports Posters, where what he would do is he would figure out what players were doing well, and then he would create iPhone backgrounds that he would then post on Instagram that other people could then presumably screenshot and use as their iPhone background, which is a really funny. And then another kind of, whatever, I think it was like crazy crossovers or something. And then he also revealed that as a child in 2008, he bought one of those capture cards and was streaming on YouTube like videos of him playing early versions of 2K. And it's this funny story of making $150 through Google AdSense via monetizing the videos of him playing 2K like alone. So you get this funny thing where like the original narrative is like this guy who just loves fucking LeBron James, wants to share his highlights. But like what is clear is that Omar is was, jury's still out if he still is, really entrepreneurial and savvy about where digital media was going, and like had this interest in making money online. He even has this funny line where he's like, I saw these people working all these hard jobs and I didn't want to work a hard job. So I was trying to come up with a way to like make money without needing to work a hard job. And it's like, fucking
respect.
Hell yeah, brother. Yeah. So
yeah, I mean, that is the interesting tension of the business story here, is like how much of it has to do with Raja's like unique insight and skills, and how much does it have to do with sort of being in the right place at the right time, which itself is like sort of a skill. And like, the more and more you read these things, everyone sort of asks him a question, or in the writing about it, they have this paragraph where they're like, here's what House of Highlights does differently. Yeah. And they have to split this like vanishingly small gap between where they're like, okay, yes, everyone does admit that bruh caught a body and like knows, they put emoji, but it's like, but Omar's writing is like authentic. Like ultimately that's what they land on, is like, he actually writes captions of like how you would share it in a group chat. And to actually see all these stories make this straight-faced case that this is like something unique is like you can just feel the strain in that and tension in that paragraph.
Who else would know to use 100 emoji right after that caption? It's the kind of thing, like it's like Rembrandt's brush strokes. Like you can't really teach that kind of stuff.
We're joking, but like Patrick, you're so right. Every article is focused on like, God, this guy's voice. He is like the freaking voice of our generation because he puts a crying emoji next to a like, bro caught a body. Like it's these are one sentence things, and to some degree, it's true, right? Like it is true that brands were really cautious on social media in the early 2010s, and that has like dissolved into like, you know, Wendy's posting whole or whatever. But like the back then it was different. And you know, it can be hard to figure out how much Omar was, because Omar was so interested in the algorithm and data-driven stuff. It can be hard to tell how much he was just sort of like absorbed into the id of the algorithm, or how much he was like never original in the first place. Because what starts happening is like everybody fucking copies him. Everybody fucking copies House of Highlights. And so it's hard to tell if he's such a genius that he was copied by everybody, or if he's such a moron that he wasn't, that he did the most basic thing and got famous. So it's strange. And then the only final thing I would say here is we were talking a little bit about this, but like there's a weird, like, so much of the early conversation around House of Highlights is it is the sports center for millennials. And we are nearing in 2013, 2014, 2015, the end of Sports Center as we know it. Like it's, you know, it's basically dead at this point because, you know, with Twitter, you no longer need to wait till 6 p.m. to see what happened in the games before, you know. And I really remember House of Highlights being the first time I was like, Sports Center is irrelevant to me now, because you can get all these highlights, you know, this other new way. And it's just something to track the degree to which Sports Center, this big, it's kind of the sports institution of the 90s and 2010s or 2000s, like falls apart in the wake of House of Highlights.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, and go ahead.
I was just gonna say, and I feel like one of the things I remember about watching in Sports Center was top 10 plays, which would happen usually at the end of the hour. And you would also just see like so many, when they were like going to commercial or something, they would keep hyping up top 10 plays, because that was the kind of thing that I would imagine also catered to the younger audience that watched SportsCenter. Like, I just want to see all the cool plays from today in one section. So I can imagine why there were so many like SportsCenter for the next generation comparisons.
Yeah. Okay. Any final thoughts on the early era before our good friends at Bleacher Report / Turner enter the mix?
I feel like I want to just flag the like player social media, like where players are at posting around this era, because this is a few years after, like, you know, Dwight Howard is like planking on like a bellhop's cart, or like these like sort of early, like there's really utopian sensibility, and like this like early social media, it was characterized by this like great positivity of like, finally, like we can find out like what JaVale McGee is like having for dinner. Like just my point there is that like the very act of posting with like unmediated was like supposedly revolutionary. And I mean, it sort of is, but like the idea was that you were just getting the like unfiltered thoughts of the person. And like, obviously what happens there is that like, you know, there's a massive marketing filter that gets put out over that. And now like any player's social media is like this exercise in brand management in like this very obvious way that everyone knows. But like around that time, there was this like sort of drive for authenticity that like really existed. Like Kyrie Irving's Vines were like just him making Vines.
No, totally. And I don't know. We have like been forced to rapidly understand the way the internet and posting like degrades our sense of who we are in real time, et cetera. But like this is we're 2016. We're 3 years before like Trick Mirror comes out, for example. a kind of seminal work on like what the internet does to our sense of self, et cetera. And like, you know, say what, like maybe we were already beginning to think about identity in the internet before that, but like this is still like 3 or 4 years before even that book comes out. So there's just kind of an interesting, like we were in the early days of like the idea. It's laughable now to be like posting is relatable and not just like a performance, but like that's what it was.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. There's an optimism that defines.
Yes.
It, so.
Yeah. Totally. I mean, there's an Obama had won on the back of Facebook. Like there is real kind of like social media is so great. God, can you believe that Elon Musk is going to save the environment with?
Wow, Elon Musk loves The Onion. That's so relatable.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, dude. Yeah, we're in peak derp.
We're all chiving it up at this point.
Yeah.
The fail army has not yet been assembled. It was still fail militia, more like.
All right. 2016 comes along. A gentleman named Doug Bernstein of Bleacher Report / Turner spearheads the purchasing of House of Highlights in a seminal purchasing of an Instagram account, which is not something you hear about or you heard about at that point. A few kind of interesting things about this, and obviously, so did you guys use Bleacher Report pre House of Highlights purchase? I personally didn't. Like, I was just not. I knew it was kind of big, but like I wasn't using it. But for the edification of our audience, Bleacher Report was like an early aggregator for sports. It was like the sports app, like, which is kind of funny to think about that was what the thing was. It's like all your sport stories could be in one app.
The thing I remember from the early days, I mean, I think this was just a byproduct of being at Deadspin and like reading Deadspin, was that Bleacher Report was like the slideshow website where they would just like make like the top 10 like craziest contracts, or like the top. I think one of them that they got in trouble for was like the top 10 disasters that like affected sports or something, and it was like right after a massive tsunami, and they ate shit for that for a while. But yeah, so like I had kind of known them as like a widely ridiculed site, but I think they kind of embraced technology / like posting highlights in a way, even pre like House of Highlights, that kind of made them.
I mean, they were headquartered in San Francisco.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
They thought of themselves as a tech company in ways that most like media companies at the time really didn't.
Well, they had Brian Goldberg too, right? Early days.
They had famous media entrepreneur and genius Brian Goldberg. Yeah.
Wait, who is Brian Goldberg? This is not a guy I'm familiar with.
Oh, the guy who he bought Bustle, right, or something, and then he also had Gawker.
He funded the Leah Finnegan era Gawker for a little bit.
Oh, the Gawker too.
Just like big time. I don't know. Like I'm trying to find a way to say this in a kind, non-actionable way. Just his desire to be liked and amount of money he had was only matched by his bad brain thinking abilities.
I just went to his Wikipedia, and the sections are early life, career, and then Napoleon's hat, because he infamously purchased a hat worn by Napoleon at
for like a lot of money.
It was like $1.4 million.
Huh.
And he said he intends to lend the hat to a museum, but also plans to wear it at formal occasions and possibly at his wedding.
That's so good.
Again, non-actionable. Is he allegedly a man of small stature? Like what?
I don't know. I don't actually know his height. I think he's just like admired Napoleon.
If you have played pickup basketball with Brian Goldberg, please email us.
Please, hit the DMs.
All
right.
Well,
okay, go ahead.
Okay, so they buy House of Highlights. And when you read stories covering the acquisition, this main thing they talk about, like the pitch that Doug Bernstein had to make to the Bleacher Report executives, which they were very resistant to at first, was that the point of this is not to drive traffic to Bleacher Report's website. It is to exist as its own silo, and being big on Instagram, which at the time was like not as monetizable. Like The way you made money was to send people to your website where they would see ads. The pitch you had to make was that was valuable on its own terms. And like, again, that's something now in 2026 that feels like so obvious. But at the time, like, you know, it did represent like a bit of forward thinking on his part for sure.
1,000%. And I interact, I kind of traffic in these spaces, these sort of like media, where is stuff going? And I will encounter these people, and this seems like one of them, who I get this uncanny feeling that they are, we're super aligned with like the analysis of what's going on. We are both seeing what is going on, but could not be more divergent in like, if we think it's good or bad. We're like, we're like totally, and this is one of those examples. It's like, yeah, these platforms they don't give a shit about driving to independent places. They just want people to stay on the app, and like, that's awesome. Let's be on the app. Like that there's this cynicism, I think, around this kind of stuff. I mean, or genius, like, or business savvy, like depending on your kind of perspective on it.
I mean, there's also, I think, I'm not gonna speculate too much, but I imagine that when these companies were like pitching to advertisers or whatever, having a big Instagram on it, you just like kind of lump in, you're like a combined global audience of like 120 million people. And that includes like whatever, like 50 million people on Instagram who are never going to click on a link at all and probably won't even see whatever you're advertising. But it does, like, it helps you juice that number basically for a more long-term vision, I feel like.
Yeah. And that is totally right. And I feel like this is the era where, like, have you guys watched Emily in Paris? No. The incredible Netflix show about Emily going to Paris. Mm-hmm. I mean, it comes out in 2020, and like the signature insight that Emily has that allows her to get this French marketing job and like a series of European boyfriends is that like, we should use Instagram to post stuff. And this is like set in like 2018 or 2019. So like, this is around the time when like, you know, it seems so, again, even at the time, it kind of felt obvious, but like, you know, you have all these people sort of reckoning with this changing media landscape. And then like Omar becomes this like sort of this paragon figure of like a zillennial cuspy guy. And so you get this like this Esquire profile, you get all these people writing about like what makes House of Highlights good and interesting.
Yeah, there is this, the social media used to be the intern's job. Like, you know, how many times did you hear that kind of thing? Yeah, wait, let's talk about this Esquire profile, because it does you start to see some of the darkness at the corner of the eyes of what's going on here. Sarah, you were texting us some funny stuff from this profile, because the you know, and I guess I should say this just to say, House of Highlights continues to grow. It's a great purchase for Bleacher Report. It kind of seems like they basically ripped Omar off. He has no ownership of the Instagram. They buy the account for him, which is now, right as of today, where it has 51 million followers. And they just sign Omar to a talent deal. He has no ownership in House of Highlights. He continues to work there, whatever. You know, he has this kind of interesting take on one of the podcasts where he was just like, our lawyers didn't know how to do an Instagram deal because there had never been one, which I buy, honestly. I that sounds right. But he has no.
Emily was still in the United States when that happened.
Emily, yeah. Exactly. It was an intern. There was the legal intern who was handling the lawyer's Instagram account. So House of Highlights and Bleacher Report continue to grow. The brands continue to be very successful on Instagram. They now don't, because they have brand deals, because it's Turner, they don't need to be stealing content. They can just like post the content as it is. Omar continues to be the, you know, so-called voice of House of Highlights, coming up with these genius captions like, can you believe that Draymond knew the play or whatever, and you know, whatever, and there are these flurry of profiles, including this Esquire profile, which begins to outline, you know, some of the strangeness with maybe making your whole life be Instagram. Sammer, what were some kind of notable things here?
Yeah, it was for people who might have read the more recent Reeves Weidman New York Mag profile on Chomstron. Yeah, there are a lot of similarities to that, and that it's the the writer somewhat confusedly following around this person as they do their job on a day-to-day basis, and it never seems like they take any joy out of it, or like they find any kind of like personal reward out of doing it. It's just a very mechanical kind of thing. Like he's always combing through highlights, combing through DMs. When he's not doing that, he's thinking about his job and like how quickly he needs to get back to it. And I feel like the closing section of the Esquire profile, which is it's worth reading the whole thing, is just the revelation Omar has is that he like sits down and watches 2 minutes of a Western Conference Finals game. And it's like, wow, basketball really is cool. And he just goes back to posting. Like for only 2 minutes, he appreciates the sport that he's been diligently covering for years now, and realizes that there might be more to it, but only for a brief moment of time before he's back to seeing cops crossing over 14-year-olds in a driveway.
I mean, that reminds me of this. I'm so sorry. I feel like such a Simmons ripoff here, but that reminds me of this moment in the third Matrix movie where they're fighting, where Neo and the Matrix are fighting the robots, and they pop up above the clouds, and you see this like beautiful sunset, and you see what the world is like actually like away from the machines, and they pop back down to fight. It's like you see this like moment of possibility where you're like, yeah, if you just kind of think about this like with your heart or your brain for like 10 seconds, you'd be like, wow, this is like, there's all these other ways to connect to this. And then you just pop right back down. You're like, Russ is pure comedy.
You could take the blue pill and go back to consuming SportsCenter top 10 plays, or you could take the red pill and figure out every NBA team's Harlem Shake compilation for the rest of your life.
and it is worth saying too, at least for me, this early Bleacher Report days were like the halcyon days for me. Like I fucking loved this stuff. Like my experience of using House of Highlights was like I have such vivid memories of tucking in before bed and like scrolling House of Highlights and seeing, like, understanding what happened that day. And this is again where the SportsCenter comp like starts to crumble, where there was a real grounding value of SportsCenter. You would finish 30 minutes of SportsCenter and you'd be like, I understand what happened in sports today. And that is like good. That makes me feel connected. I can talk to my neighbor about what the fuck happened. I can, whatever. I can be like, did you guys see Vlad Guerrero's at bat yesterday? There was a moment of that for the young millennials where it was like, I can scroll through the 7 posts that House of Highlights made in a day, and I get the 4 or 5 dunks. I can pause them. I can look at them again. I can send them to my friends. Like there was this moment of beauty in this before what we will get into, which is like complete incoherence. But it's worth saying, like, it was cool. I liked it. It was, and the corniness like wasn't so grating, maybe because it was just sort of like, this is how people talk on the internet. I don't know. So,
yeah, I think it was like still a novelty at that point, and it still also felt like there was a utility to it. It wasn't like you weren't so inundated with it that you could actually get like useful things out of it and be like, oh, okay, these are the like most interesting things to talk about with my friends. But then at a certain point, everything was just like chronicled and presented as if it were the most interesting to talk to your friends about. But they didn't all have the same value. They were just all packaged the same way, kind of.
I almost feel like I'm sort of talking myself into a kind of great man of history style like fallacy here. But like there really is something to like how, I mean, because this is like a basketball focused thing. Like he sort of has to broaden at some point later, but like how like the Steph Curry LeBron 4 straight finals and like the memetics of like Draymond hitting guys in the dick and like this incredible rivalry. And like, it really felt like it like those finals like transcended sports and this like major way. And like the fact that was all happening at the same time is like probably just like this byproduct of, historical coincidence. But like those particular series felt like heightened in this crazy way that if it was like Raptors Rockets, I'm like not so sure that the story is exactly the same.
Well, and it's worth returning to this Lee Jenkins Sports Illustrated piece as the like basically last monocultural article. Like, and how
I still remember the photo of LeBron at the top of that story.
And that there was this funny kind of like reading between the lines of like, oh, Andrew Wiggins wasn't mentioned. That means maybe, whatever. It's he's going to trade for him or something. Or trade that pick. There becomes this vacuum, and like the Players Tribune pops up, and like there's this like LeBron via the decision has kind of shifted this time into like the players run stuff, but they're not exactly sure where they run stuff, and it's sort of diffuse. And you also start to see this is in many of the profiles of Omar, like LeBron and D Wade comment on the Instagram, and like stuff goes down in the comments, and players DM him, and like you start to see. I think we talked about this like with gambling on the Liz Franzik episode, like the idea that it wasn't just that like the game was going to turn into a computer, but that we were going to start acting like computers and we were going to start gambling. You do start to see the players start to feed into, like they start to enjoy contorting themselves into memes. Like they are interested in becoming memes in a way that is weird, where like you get this House of Highlights is capitalizing on the memes that naturally occur, these sort of like organic memes, but then there's just like NGO meme farming thing that's happening because players want to be on House of Highlights, and that's how you get like
meme Santo, basically.
Yeah, exactly. You get Monsanto, but that's how you get stuff like the DeAndre Jordan emoji shit. It's because the players wanted to be a House of Highlights post, consciously or not. Like there's a feeding into this league is so drunk ass feeling of the time.
And it's like regarding the Panopticon and being like, wow, that looks kind of tight. I would love to be in there. They look like they're having fun. They're all watching each other. That's cool. Also, the emoji gate thing just reminded me of my favorite NBA tweet of all time, which is April 28th, 2015 from the Houston Rockets account. Horse emoji, gun emoji pointing at the horse before they made it the cartoon gun with "shh, it'll all be over soon," which is so fucking
which
funny.
Is crazy too, because I don't think you would get fired for that today. I feel like you could get away with that probably.
Well, I actually don't know. I feel like that they basically suppose this different timeline where like, everyone is on social media and you can be a little wackier. You can like your Wendy's, you can show a hole, like you said, but like, except they basically like, they made the mistake of doing it in Deadspin voice instead of doing it in Bleacher Report voice. Like their problem was they made a joke for adults.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it, honestly.
That's so true. No, that's so, and that actually like sort of shows how the Panopticon is guiding us toward being infants.
Yeah.
Or not us, but it's guiding the users toward being, the Deadspin voice is so accurate. Like, go ahead.
I just had one other thought, which is that I feel like the phrases you heard a lot in this early era we're talking about were winning the internet or restoring your faith in humanity. Those were the big two things. People always wanted their faith in humanity restored, to the point where like Clickhole would just like make fun of it, like because it was such a prominent, like I think Upworthy inspired thing. And then I feel like as we were, as Trump won and faith in humanity was at an all-time low, we were kind of just like getting into that point where the athletes were kind of hoping to be on House of Highlights, because like, well, we couldn't restore faith, so let's just like be in front of the cameras at least.
Yeah, let's just like pop off. Yeah.
I think that's an interesting entry point into this bit we have written here about like the writing style of House of Highlights. Like what is the mimetic humor? Like why are the captions the way they are? Because we sort of mentioned this earlier, but like the thing people would mention that like Omar mentions himself is that like he was just such a genius at writing captions in a way that was like relatable. And Sam Rana, you've talked and thought a lot about like this paradigm of relatability. So like, and also I consider you one of the best editors I've ever worked with. So what would you say your read is on like House of Highlights voice of this time?
Well, yeah, in the Esquire profile, there's like a sentence where they kind of outline the kind of mission statement that House of Highlights has. It's like 3 ideological pillars. This is a quote: inclusivity, celebratory, relatability. I don't know why 2 of them are nouns and 1 of them is a adjective, but we're gonna move on from that. But it is just like, yeah, like it is finding different ways to say wow, basically. Like, how many different ways can you say wow? And the emojis play part of it, but it's also like we keep getting back to like the family friendly nature of it. It is appealing to businesses and advertisers because there's never going to be something mean, like too mean, or there's never going to be something too edgy or too much for adults, basically, as we said before. And that it is just like infantilized. The more you read it, the more infantilizing it gets. But I also, I put this in the doc, but it is ideally to be watched when you have hot Cheeto dust on your fingers and are drinking a big Arizona iced tea. That's why I got in Arizona today, so I could put myself in that mindset.
Well, you know what's funny that's something that's making me think about this is like it is this fantasy of a highly online person who spends none of his time online on anything fucked up. Like it's like it's this idea that like we're gonna be hyper online, but it's like every teenager who was online was like hyper online was like getting into fucking fucked up shit. Like, you know, they were finding
they were being racist like, on Call of Duty or something.
Exactly. Like no, like literally, like they were like you know, and I'm not there's that whole thing, but then there is just also like there's a tradition of edgelordiness to the internet and a tradition of hijinks and a tradition of pranks and kind of like that's like can be good natured, but is at the very least edgy. You know, like this was like these were anonymous spaces that you could say whatever you wanted, you could joke freely, etc. And it's like, what if we took all of that, but it was like mommy's special little boy was the one who was doing it. Like, and that is what's so kind of like unsettling about this is it's like it's like a hyper online 14-year-old that's also been lobotomized. Like,
I think it's a little brother who runs into the room to hastily misremember what he just saw or what his friend just told him. That's what it feels like to read House of Highlights.
Well, and just like linguistically, this like large evolution that you're seeing that's like, I guess we can chronicle it from like ebombsworld.com to like the House of Highlights popcorn emoji voice is like what you were essentially seeing here is like the total victory of like marketing. Like that marketing and selling stuff is like always where the internet was heading. And, you know, over the years, you've basically seen this like the internet as a site of like authenticity or connection or like where you could have this like virtual life that was not necessarily possible in your regular life. Like, that has just been totally stripped away. And now it's just this like vertically integrated, like marketing and surveillance machine. And like, I think everyone sort of acknowledges that. And like, you can see like linguistically, I guess my point is like House of Highlights voice is like just this smooth, it's marketing language essentially. Like it's, you know, relatability and sort of positivity. It's like, you want to have people have like a brand recognition, you know?
Because you mentioned E-bombs, I'm now thinking of how House of Highlights would like treat the Numa guy, where it's like, wow, Gary's cooking, and then there's like 2 flame emojis as he's like lip syncing this song. It would be, I think, framed as like inspiring rather than just like a very funny video of a guy like lip syncing.
Dante DiVincenzo did the Numa after draining a 3.
Yeah.
Or like, nah, Pelicans in announcing team dropped Numa. It's like
Highway Patrol does Numa challenge.
The one other just like thing on this point is there has been this like giant rug pull around like Instagram, Meta, as their relationship to content regulation. Like this kind of thing that we're talking about, like you can now find all kinds of heinous stuff on Instagram, but like in 2014, 2015, what was so unique about this branded, sanded down House of Highlights is that Instagram was pretty good at catching the 4chan slop that would bubble up. So it wasn't like cool or edgy to post on Instagram, but House of Highlights was able to like thread this needle of online but sanitary and brand safe, such that whatever. And Instagram had really strict throttlings of like racist stuff, et cetera, because they were trying to appeal to an Obama era FCC, an Obama era kind of like, understanding of what should and shouldn't be on the internet or on the like mainstream internet. They have now like completely done it about face and like don't give a shit about that kind of stuff. But like it was perfect timing for that moment.
Yeah, and like this is kind of a tech story, and like the sort of the front-facing brand fiction of like Google and Facebook and all at the time is like, we're going to make the world a better place through like human connection. Like Google was literally the don't be evil company.
Yes.
Whereas like now the premise of every major tech company, especially like all the AI ones, is like, we will kill you.
Submit, basically.
Yeah. Okay. So what happens in 2019 when Omar Raja's contract is up at Bleacher Report, Harry?
Yeah, we get into well, so this is where I think it's worth having a conversation. So I'll tell you, and then I'll give you my meta text. So Omar, he kind of fades away in a sense. I mean, he is still at ESPN, but his contract is not reduced. Or I mean, they can't reach an agreement with his contract at Bleacher Report, and he moves over to ESPN. And there's two readings of that. There's like, I wanted ESPN. You could still make the argument that was the worldwide leader in sports, the biggest sports brand you could be at, and he wanted to be there. You could also read it as, hey, we've kind of figured out how to like do your house style without you, and like you're not worth the amount of money that you think you're worth. And so like we're, as Bleacher Report, we're gonna like not give you a kind of an offer that you're looking for. I don't know exactly where it ended up. Omar does end up leaving to go to ESPN, and at least for me, really kind of fades from like front-facing cultural relevancy. There were these attempts at him being like a front-facing guy, but it is actually kind of like, it's kind of shocking to me that he hasn't figured out a way to like be on SportsCenter or have his own TV show or et cetera, given just how much institutional backing he has had and for that long. It could be that he doesn't like it. It could be that he is bad at it. I don't know, but he really has kind of faded into the distance, and you get this real feeling that like the inmates are running the asylum from, in this case, I guess the inmates being the algorithm, like this whole idea of like data tested captioning, data engagement, farming behavior. Like Bleacher Report is like, okay, we have this model of how to run this stuff. Like, let's just like let that cook. And this is where I think the edges of, and then maybe the last thing I'll say is like, we are also crucially kind of like some of the Silicon Valley funny money is beginning to dry up, and a place like Bleacher Report that has vested all this money into being this tech company starts to need to show returns on investment, and can't just play like, you can't just have unlimited highlights. You need to be like growing faster. You need to be spamming State Farm ads, etc. And so all of these factors lead to, one, literally Omar goes to ESPN, and two, I think Bleacher Report / House of Highlights begins to lose touch with reality, I would say. It begins to kind of like be a little bit of the farcical highlight cooked Zoomer machine that we have been making fun of this whole time.
Yeah, this is where I feel like this is when you start to see posts that Sammer would then go on to make fun of in Popular 2 years later. Like a cop pulling up on like a pickup game and like dunking on a child, with sort of like the clapping emoji and then maybe like the tasteful crying emoji.
The only other funny thing about the Omar thing is ESPN described by sources his role as a multi-hyphenate role, including on-air appearances related to NBA program, as well as influencing the direction of ESPN social strategy. I'm not sure I've seen him on ESPN once in my entire life, so I don't know what the hyphenates are. But
I think I have kind of on accident, like during their finals coverage, and like something I will say is like from watching his video appearances and listening to him on podcasts, like I think he actually is like a fairly charismatic person.
Yeah.
Like, when he was talking to these two guys in this podcast, every answer was like, he was like performing it well. He was like really kind of selling it, except it was very like the things he was actually saying were like insanely grim, where he was just like, I think my legacy was like the Hoodie Mellow meme. Do you guys remember that? But he's like, he clearly has a talent for broadcasting in some form. So it is sort of but I guess like, again, this is all happening as like TV and broadcasting is becoming increasingly obsolete.
I will say one thing that might be his influence, or might be just like a general institutional embrace of like what he's doing. I do like check the ESPN homepage pretty regularly, and then I don't know, I can't pin it down to when this started.
Oh, yes.
But like the top headlines, there'd always be like the regular headlines you would expect. And then always like the bottom one would have some kind of emoji next to it and be more of like what I would classify as like the quote unquote social news element, where it's like, oh, somebody trolled somebody else, or like, check out what this team said to like this guy who didn't believe in them or something like that. So like, I feel like that, I don't know if he like directs that or not, but that is definitely like part of his influence, I would say.
And actually, I want to make a point about like industry at marketing brain drain, because the other crucial thing that's worth talking about here is everyone starts to talk like this. Mm-hmm. Every single thing on front-facing brand starts to do emoji brand voice. And so in a way, again, he's sort of like eaten by the algorithm, because it just goes from like Omar is doing these captions to everyone is doing it. Not every individual person, but like every single brand. There's 1,000 fake House of Highlights knockoffs. So like we are just flooded by prospectors of the social media gold rush, like trying to be the next Omar. And so he's just sort of, I go back and forth about being like, do I come down on this guy as like, is there something sinister he did, or is he really just guilty of like coming up with something at the right time, novelty wise, and then having this like weird, giant embrace by the industry? Because I want to read this thing. I've talked a little bit about advertising brain drain, but it's something, I think it's a helpful.
Didn't your mom work in advertising?
My mom worked in advertising for most of her adult life, and so she got it in my head about this sort of like concept of brain drain, which is like, you know, if you think about even like Mad Men, like the concept of the show Mad Men was like all these young creators, aspiring authors and writers, like they worked in advertising as their day job so they could be creative. That as a concept has just been completely eroded. Like creative, I mean, you know, I know some creative people who work in advertising. I'm not saying everybody is in advertising is uncreative, but like the industry by and large has been like completely zapped of like, it's an early career place for a creative. And that has had downstream effects on like the degree to which marketing is innovative or whatever. And there's a fine line between being like, I don't want to like talk about how amazing certain ads are, but ads have gotten worse. Like they're getting more derivative, they're getting more data driven, you know, and then we're also finding like, unfortunately, it is more cost effective instead of like, or at least cost effective in some kind of short-term way, instead of building out like a giant 3-minute Budweiser ad about the American West to just like spam, Budweiser push notifications or whatever. Like that meta has evolved. But so the Scott Galloway touched on this in a book he wrote, kind of like hagiography of Apple and Facebook and Google, whatever, called The 4 Hidden DNA of Apple, Amazon, Facebook, and Google. And he is talking about WPP, which is like the parent company of Ogilvy and Mindshare, which are these like giant institutions in marketing. Like, again, if you were a creative in 2000 and you wanted to figure out how to afford to live in New York, like you would get a day job at Ogilvy writing like interesting ad copy. Then you would hopefully go on to do your creative thing. Now you are likely an influencer in Los Angeles or some other.
You're getting ready for the day, or you're doing a day in the life. Or
no, like for real.
Yeah,
like you're that's yeah. But there's some 2000 of its former employees from WPP have migrated to Facebook or Google. Galway writes, by comparison, only 124 former Facebook or Google employees left to work at WPP. Consider these reverse migrants. 124 went back to WPP. Many of them, it turns out, had only interned at Facebook or Google and went to WPP when they weren't extended offers in Palo Alto or Mountainside. The ad world today is increasingly run by the leftovers. And I bring this up because the explosion of House of Highlights comes at this moment of brain drain where advertisers have immense deals they need to make to these brands, these Nikes, et cetera, and they can't figure out what works. And what they know works is talking like a baby on Instagram. And so you get this like incredible groupthink, like widespread marketing adoption of this baby speak. Like, it does not need to be like this. There are other conceivable ways you could engage with your audience, but because these brands are over leveraged and are, maybe the more like smart or creative folks are moving to other places, you get this just like this like perfect storm of copying bullshit. So you get, everywhere is everybody is talking like Omar, and you like can't quite hold that against Omar. I think, I don't know. So that's my spiel. Sammer, this is where you wrote your piece about House of Highlights called Highlights for Children. Do you remember like why? What did it get to you? Like, why did you want to write this piece?
I think it was like it was always in the back of my head, like toward the end of my time at Deadspin. I was just like, God, this thing is so annoying. But also like, it was also a time where there'd be a lot of like a big smarmy response. If you're like, why are you hating on something that's just like trying to do good for the world? But it's not really like doing good for the world. It's just like kind of doing good for its own self by showing good stuff happening in the world. But I think,
well, it's like that the positivist sensibility was in itself like doing good.
Yeah.
Like just like, it's like the Upworthy thing. Like Upworthy in itself, because it was nice, meant it was good. So Smarm is exactly the right.
Yeah, and maybe like a larger comparison might be like when you see a Google ad where it's like, here's all the greatness in humanity. It's like Google isn't creating that humanity. Google is just like benefiting from that humanity by showing you how great humanity is. But yeah, I think maybe the breaking point was, well, first of all, one, I was a freelancer and didn't have a job. So I was like, well, let me write about the things that piss me off. And then two, I think it was just like all the propaganda that House of Highlights was posting. It just like got to a point where it was incompatible with like what was going on in the world at them. Because this was like the 2020 protests, like post George Floyd. And I was just like, this isn't inspiring. Like, even if you're like thinking of like the median person at the time or the average person at the time, I don't think this is inspiring to them. I think they're like out there realizing like the extent of police brutality for the first time, possibly. So like, why is this still in this factory packaged way of like, wow, look, like tearful emoji, like flames, like here's this cop, like, and also like those clips were obviously, I wouldn't say all like rehearsed or something, but obviously like police were getting out there in the community to try and improve their image. And House of Highlights and ESPN were just like diligently passing that message along that, hey, not all cops are bad. Some of them play basketball for 10 minutes with some kids they saw on the street. And I think that was kind of like the central thing. And then I kind of, with Maria, like examined it a little more. I was like, why is this so targeted towards baby? Like, why do they think everybody in their audience is 12 years old, basically?
Yeah.
And I think the answer to that question kind of gets back to what Harry was saying, where like the desire of the advertiser is to remove as many layers between themselves and you, to just beam the word Budweiser directly into your brain. Yeah. And like one, like having to craft a commercial that then plays between the parts of the TV show you want to watch. Like there's a lot of layers there. And then just writing like, can't believe his mom came home with Krispy Kreme for the whole squad is like, that's like a needle directly jabbed into your ear,
No,
and I can't believe it. Genuinely, yeah. The whole squad
bought the family-sized box of Gushers. What?
The other part here that starts to really break down is this idea of authenticity of the players' voices. I mean, it's in stark contrast where you get this like all majority black league, leveraging their voice on social media to protest police murders, and the Instagram posts, the Instagram account built, in part off the alleged back of their authenticity, posting like sanitized bullshit. Like it's like it which, again, reveals the sort of naivete of the original thing, that anybody was interested really in like pure authenticity of the players as much as they were interested in a sort of like performance of the notion that they too are kind of like JJ Redick or whatever the fuck. Like, but it just crumbles. The center of the notion crumbles. Like we are, it's almost like how we're like not tied to the gold standard anymore. Like we're just like, we're off in a whole different universe now.
Yeah, if you just try to learn about sports from looking at the House of Highlights page, which is something I've basically done for the last week, you would think that like Speed is the most famous person and most famous athlete in the whole world.
Like, why hasn't this guy gone pro? He's clearly so good at all of these sports.
No, Sammer, it's because he's so good at sports, he just gets paid to do it directly, yeah. And it would be unfair to the other players in the league if they had to play against Speed.
I remember when he had that. Sorry to cut you off, but he had that whole like saga where he would just like try to. I mean, I'm assuming he's still doing it. Try to race like pro athletes, and it was like he almost beat Tyreek Hill in her like foot race, or he did beat Tyreek Hill. I don't remember what it was, but like.
He raced a cheetah recently on the House of Highlights. Oh. That's one of their pinned posts right now.
Nice.
Great. Yeah, let me see one other thing about this that is also another kind of like factor here is this widespread tech trend of the algorithms that govern all content moving from linear to nonlinear. And like that to me, like that's the sort of like final bullet to the back of the head is like the sort of emergence of For You stuff where again, what we started at was a half linear highlight, half fun stuff players do Instagram page. What we are at now is like a completely nonlinear hodgepodge of highlights and police officers or substitute teachers or children or like sea otters doing stuff or in ways and times that like we don't even know when it happened. Like we're gone.
Yeah.
And one other thing is I wanted to read this quote I have found for anybody who is interested in kind of more media stuff, I suggest you check out the New Models podcast. It's a very interesting and kind of like forward-thinking media thing. They have a Discord, they have whatever this but they have a podcast called Talk Core. And they had a professor named Charlie Munger on, and they were discussing the Charlie Kirk assassination, but I actually think this quote kind of is an apt discussion of the Charlie Kirk assassination, but also kind of fits into how all of this feels. So I'm just going to read it. So when it comes to the Charlie Kirk assassination, I think my reaction, and I'm sure many people who think about media in this way had the same thought, that we already know what is going to happen. We already know all of the notes that are going to be hit by the relevant actors. So it doesn't really matter to pay attention to it. But then it becomes a bit baffling when you think about what the subjective experience of the people in this cycle, I think many of the producers are cynical. They are aware they are just going to do what they have been sort of programmed to do by the audience, and their audience is aware well enough to, or excuse me, they know their audience well enough to produce stuff that will get them lots of views. And their audience, I guess, has sort of been conditioned to also want this kind of response. And so the whole thing unfolds sort of automatically. And I think that's true about the Charlie Kirk thing, how you can kind of be like, wow, you knew that there would be this conspiracy and you knew Candace Owens. You could kind of but you do also get this in sports where, like, if you close your eyes and we're like, what do I think is on the House of Highlights Instagram page right now? You would be right. Like, there's no mystery. There is no kind of not an iota of surprise in what is going on in sports. A famously shocking and surprising thing. And
Yes,
it's just I don't know. So I'm curious what you guys think about that quote.
I really do vibe with that quote. And I feel like essentially the phenomenon that it's sort of describing is like this flattening of like everything is just like content, and it's sort of denatured from its origins. And like this, I'm just sort of thinking about this idea of the algorithm, and it's like what becomes popular, like what you see, what like the news you come across is like the product of this like weird mind meld of like everyone's id getting tickled and like you finding out what's like the dumbest, like most shareable, like stupid shit ever that's then like fusing with whatever machine consciousness is pushing that. And so like, that doesn't lend itself to like knowing the context of like what is happening in a basketball game or like why something is interesting. Essentially, it really is just like the we kind of talked about this earlier, but like the feeling when mom brings pizza rolls and then like, Dwayne Wade having his jersey retired and experiencing emotion. Those are the same thing. And like, if you sort of trade upon that sameness for long enough, I feel like it's then sort of impossible to do anything but just become stupider, because like, if you're just plugging it into this automatic market incentive and the incentive is just become stupider, make highlights for children over and over again. Like that's just, there's a positive feedback loop there.
Yeah. And like, I mean, it is simplifying emotional complexity. And I know we keep bragging on like the emoji use, but it really is like a kind of thing where the emojis dictate the kind of categories. It's like, does this fit into like a crying emoji or like a hands raised emoji? Like, how does this fit into one of the predetermined categories we have for the content we know is going to do really well with our audience and not get us yelled at? Like, it's just, you don't want to get yelled at and you want people to click on it, basically.
And in that way, it's like, it's beyond language in a way. Like when we talk about the sort of the memification and the emoji use and this like flattening of everything into content, basically what you're doing is like narrowing the scope of like acceptable or possible like modes of expression. And so like, you can't have the emotional complexity of, I don't know, like Steph winning his title and then crying with Clay or whatever. It's like that is too complex. The only information that can be input is like, which of the 3 crying emojis do you pick? Do I pair it with popcorn, fire? That's not quite right. Like the devil horns guy it's like, it's a blunting. It's like you're expressing yourself in these big square blocks rather than like, how people actually sort of talk, like, I don't know, like how expression and communication is like meaningfully done.
Yeah. And like the other thing that I find so sinister about it is like, cause you can say like Omar is like trying to show positive aspects of the world or whatever. I don't know. I don't really buy the like larger argument around it, but I think the thing that's super sinister is that it conditions the audience of House of Highlights to expect that kind of packaging in other places, like in other forms of media that they consume or in other aspects of life. They're like, why isn't this as simplified as this thing I follow? And I think people do grow out of that eventually. Like there are people who just over time, their tastes get more complex. They're more willing to, I guess, read a book or something like that. But it is just like bad to have this huge audience of young kids thinking that the world is like this simple, basically. And I know that sounds kind of cranky, but I don't know.
No, and you actually start to, because I've seen this in my work too with production stuff, where like the algorithm starts to lie to you in a sense, where if you are House of Highlights and you post something and you it does well, quote unquote, right? There is a certain set of assumptions about like why you think it did well. Like, oh, the emojis or we tested it in this way or whatever. But you're getting, there's so much noise by the fact that you are an algorithm monolith. Like you move markets algorithmically. And so you lose track of being able to understand, like, somewhere at the base of the algorithm, there is this notion that it's what people want. But we're so far away from that when you're an algorithm market mover like House of Highlights or somebody trying to be a House of Highlights, that you're completely lost. Like the feedback you're getting is fake feedback. But nobody wants to be like, it's so much easier to tell your boss, like, yeah, this fucking performed well, than being like, I have no fucking idea why this video did well or not well, or I don't fucking know. Like that's not an acceptable answer. But you just, it's gobbledygook.
I believe it was Hegel who wrote about this, where it's like this phenomenon of sort of like being part of the world and also sort of creating it, and like sort of having an awareness as like a third party of, the things that are happening while also being a participant in changing those. Like that is like this sort of hallmark of if it wasn't him, don't write it. Don't write in.
Don't comment, yeah.
I was talking about Kierkegaard or whoever actually said it, but like, you know what I mean? Where it's like, you are sort of part of this spectacle, but also like have awareness of it. Like that is so much of the sort of modern condition to me, where you feel so powerless, but also like, I don't know, like it is all kind of happening online. I feel like that kind of transitions us to like sort of House of Highlights voice and like graphics being now used by like DHS and shit, and kind of just like the way that this language is now, like it's total victory for this languagelessness.
Total victory is the right way to put it. And total victory of cross, like you said, like you guys sent a House of Highlights style graphic about a politician that was like released through official channels. Go ahead, Tamer.
I was just gonna say, the image macro became like a huge thing. It was, I think Nancy Mace was the one. I think Jacob Rosenberg showed it to me. But it's just like they now, to their own audiences, just message shit by a big picture with like 3 to 5 words on it. Be like, this is what we're talking. Like it's like state of emergency or something, because I think there was a weather event coming to that state. But then they'll put all the like relevant text above that. But they know like nobody's reading that shit. They just want to see the big image. They want to see if they can make it into a meme in its own self, and then they just want to like move on from there.
Yeah, and like if you push all of these sort of posting and consumptive and like, political economic trends to the max, like essentially what you get is then like the DHS account tweeting out an AI enhanced image of a woman they were arresting to like make her look like she was crying. And then when people responded to that and they were like, this is bullshit, they said the memeing will continue. It's like that this sort of algorithmic based like lying and making your audience stupider is now the sort of like imprimatur of literally the most powerful government. Like it feels crazy. Not that this is Omar's fault, but like, he was just a part of this river that was always going to flow into this lake.
Well, the part where you see this kind of thing in sport is this, and I think our lawyer Alex Portello wrote a piece about this, about the idea of there were a few kind of like found money graphics that turned into memes, where it's like, oh, the lights are too bright. It is now clear that there's like a stupid doublespeak thing going on, where Bleacher Report is making images that are not memes, but that are purposefully designed to be taken as memes.
Yeah.
And are kind of like laundering their like position as a institution just toward mimetic value. And like, this is how you lose faith in institutions. Like we keep going back to this total victory, but it's like, it is a complete and total cultural victory of engagement farming versus like any other metric like trust or enjoyment or fucking connectivity, whatever.
Yeah, because when you post the image macro of like a basketball player with then like this giant word in impact font that's like nobody want me or something, what you're saying to your audience is like you are smart enough to understand that this is funny beyond its initial context. Like it's handing a little treat on a plate to a toddler and like they understand that like, oh, I can like manipulate it. I guess treat's the wrong metaphor, but it's like what I'm saying where you're saying to your audience, you're so smart for understanding what this is. Yeah. Like, it's like this huge wink at the camera, but it's so fucking obvious.
It's like Straussian, but for the dumbest guys imaginable. It's like,
I feel like similar to House of Highlights 2, it is just not only intended for the public audience, but it's intended for you to be able to use it in your own group chats and your own friend groups.
Yes.
It's like, here you go. You can be the first one to this one and you can make fun of somebody else and get like all the reactions in the chat.
And again, it's like to this idea of transcending language. Like the pitch there is that you don't have to think, you don't have to write. Like the sort of the humor preset button has already been pushed for you. All you have to do is like and subscribe.
Yeah.
All right. Let's cheer ourselves up. I have compiled some of my favorite, and I have to say shout out to my brother Leo. Him and I have been discussing House of Highlights for years, and we will like DM each other famous, like particularly egregious captions. So compiling this was actually very easy for me because I have a giant tranche of the stupidest House of Highlights.
You sent us 57 images in one text yesterday.
Incredible.
Yeah, I've got a full tranche. So I'm gonna just read a few, and you guys let me know what you think about these. Okay, here's one I particularly like: Nikola Jokic and 361 to drop SpongeBob collection. and then the caption: Joker is dropping a SpongeBob SquarePants shoe collection. Sponge emoji, beach emoji. Return
sponge emoji.
You copping? Kyrie celebrates Mavs win with his drum emoji.
Nice. In case you missed the drum in the video, I
guess. Here was a story that just said, who can kick a better field goal? And people could vote on if it was either LeBron or Luka. Here's a great one. Here's a kind of a classic. He got LeBron's for his birthday and his squad went crazy.
Yes. With like 7 white children in like a suburban household. There's another classic of the genre is you'll never guess what Lil Bro got for Christmas. Crying emoji, eyes emoji, and it's like a PS4 and like a Cheez-It box or something.
Yep, that was good. Cool. Young Dolph pulled up on Jackson State homecoming.
Nice.
Just
yeah,
crazy. And
there's
one
LeBron fan versus 10 LeBron haters, sort of a Charlie Kirk like debating liberals kind of thing. They're also the pinned link in the House of Highlights profile currently is one Tom Brady fan versus 10 haters. So again, context collapse.
Ant and Adam Sandler showed love pregame. Fire emoji. Hands.
They love when people show love or show respect, either pregame or postgame, in the game even. Whenever.
Mm-hmm.
One of the many things we have in common with them.
Yeah. CP said, not today, crying, laughing emoji. And this is regarding the Jose Alvarado Grand Theft Alvarado technique. This one was especially disturbing. Hooping while pregnant, crying emoji, pregnant woman emoji.
I like the idea of somebody at House of Highlights just like scrolling to find the pregnant woman emoji because it's never used in any other context.
Yeah. Another kind of concerning context collapse one. Your max is out of Your max is out of 30 and your birthday is the score.
Wait. What?
It's the idea that you have a test that the best you could get is 30, but your birthday is the score. And what
this is like that new meme where you just post like a graphic, like a breaking news graphic, and then just a bunch of nonsense.
Yeah, exactly.
This is a good one that you sent.
Oh yeah, what's that one say? Oh,
It's a House of Highlights screenshot of a tweet of someone saying, "Am I tripping? Or we don't have players like this in our league no more?" And it's just a photo of JJ Redick. I think
Yeah,
you're tripping.
I think you are
unfortunately.
tripping. Yeah.
Like Chris Haynes.
A great one in that similar vein. Y'all rocking with the 90s or the 2020s? Eye emoji.
That's a funny way of just doing demographic research on your audience, where it's like instead of sending out like a Survey Monkey link to whatever, like you're just like asking them in real time and just collecting whatever responses.
What they're rocking with. Yeah.
Wait, can I do this as a quiz now?
Sure.
Speed becomes the first streamer ever to stream inside the pyramids in Egypt. What emoji do you think they used?
Oh, that's a really good question. I'm going with fire.
I'm going with
That's a good guess,
hands
Sammer.
emoji.
It's the head exploding emoji.
Should have known.
Okay, I'll do that for you guys. When Luca collabed with Dude Perfect.
I think it's the smiling single tear emoji and the hands
I'll
raised.
say it's the side eye emoji, and then maybe the 100 emoji.
Close. It's the kind of letting out a breath out, like
the
emoji.
Steam nose.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
the exhale is a
yeah.
big one.
Okay, here's an obvious one. I think maybe you guys can guess. Noah Lyles didn't know who Jokic was.
I'm gonna say the flushed big eyes emoji, and then there's two, right?
Yeah.
I feel like there's always two.
I want to.
Maybe like
I was gonna say the cry
ahead.
laugh emoji and the skull emoji. I feel like it's got to be one of those.
It was cry laugh side eye.
Nice.
There was one I just wanted you to. I mean, I already know the emoji because I'm looking at it, but this I think came out around the time when I wrote my popular piece. The Army Ranger training is insane. And it's the.
Oh,
do you want to guess what emoji? And
Oh,
then
yeah.
I'll describe the clip.
Yeah.
Muscle gun.
Harry, do you have any guesses?
Yeah, I'm going like head. Is it head
It
exploding?
is head exploding, and then the flushed face emoji.
Mm.
But it's crazy too because
The flush
it's just like
face.
capturing like military abuse on video, and it's just like, whoa, that's crazy. Anyway,
Yeah.
because it's just a ranger beating down like a prone recruit, and yeah, I don't know why they posted that one.
That makes me say bruh. That's a bruh moment for sure.
It's definitely a bro moment. Well, we're gonna call it there. We'll get to the Creator League, the kind of final act another time. It's honestly worth its own deep dive because of just how confusing it is. I'll say this: some foreshadowing is the Creator League started with a game of 1-on-1 between somebody named FaZe Rug and Aiden Ross, who is now kind of a sort of famous dead-eyed manosphere, anti-Semitic weird guy. So shout out to them playing 1-on-1 in 2021 for some money that has then turned into something very strange.
Sammer, thanks for showing up and pulling up and showing love to the squad.
I had to show love and my respect. Obviously, I'm nothing but respect.
Nothing but respect.
Yep. And you know that I did have a blast. I don't know if there's anything optimistic we can take out of this other than I guess you know what? How about this? By you, listener, consuming a possibly 1.5 to 2 hour podcast. That is, you know, we were. This was thoughtful. This was researched. We went through a wide range of emotion. Like you are practicing what we are hoping to preach. This cannot be reduced to a graphic. You're going to have to consume, or you have just consumed our nuanced thoughts on this strange Instagram account and this strange fellow Omar Raja.
Yeah. And all I got to say is an ice cold Michelob Ultra sounds great to me right now. I don't know about you guys.
Also tell us if
Mhm.
you're rocking with the 18 to 34 demographic or the 35 to 49 demographic.
Yep. All right. We will.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Sammer.
Thank
This
you.
is great.
Yeah, it
It's
was.
really fun.
Thank you. We will talk to y'all soon.
At Arizona State University, we're bringing world-class education from our globally acclaimed faculty to you. Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online. That's a degree better. Learn more at asuonline.asu.edu.